London, 2026. While the city sleeps, a storm is brewing inside Clarence House. Unverified reports are already stirring up public opinion about a move that could shake the royal family to its core. We aren't looking at standard royal protocol here. We're looking at the sudden halting of Princess Diana's inheritance. The big question is, why now? Is this a mere technicality, or have they triggered a protective mechanism designed to stop a disaster? Rumors started whispering through the halls of Windsor long before the outside world caught wind of the subtle shakes rattling the crown. Behind the flawlessly scripted spectacles and the phony veil of unity, a silent storm is brewing, and Anne can't just sit back and watch. This isn't just about protocol or dusty traditions anymore. It's got a deeply personal stamp on it. For months, Anne's been quietly clocking Camilla's every move, realizing her influence stretches way beyond what the late Queen ever had in mind. Reports are piling up that Camilla's been slyly staking her claim to symbols reserved for those who've truly earned their spot, not just inherited it through the usual pecking order. Whispers are spreading like wildfire through the palaces, from hush-hush jewelry fittings to speeches loaded with not-so-subtle digs, right down to special requests hitting the royal archives for historic outfits. To plenty of folks, it's just a touch of harmless modernization. But to Anne, it's starting to feel like a silent coronation, without a shred of buy-in, straight up threatening the bedrock her mom spent 7 decades hammering into place. Behind those velvet drapes, the air's getting thick with tension. Anne's silence grows heavier by the day, her gaze sharpening like a blade in every meeting where Camilla's name comes up. She started dodging those cozy get-togethers, and the insiders are buzzing about late-night huddles in the tucked-away rooms of Buckingham Palace, just Anne, a handful of trusted aides, and a dossier stamped with the late Queen's crest. Whatever goes down in those chambers never hits the books, but her hurried footsteps and that tight edge in her voice, they're screaming of a storm raging inside. For decades, she's been the steel spine of the palace, unbreakable, loyal, and so buttoned up that nothing could rattle her. But now everything's flipped on its head. It's not just Camilla's ballooning influence that's got her on edge, it's this gut-wrenching sense that her mother's dying wishes are fading away, chipped at by time politics and those cutthroat power games. Meanwhile, Catherine's getting shoved into the shadows, despite ticking every single box the crown's ever demanded. Anne sees it all too plainly, and her moves aren't just about shielding her own dignity, they're a fierce stand to safeguard the legacy her mom carved out for the royals tomorrow. Catherine isn't merely the poster child for the future. She's the breathing, beating echo of the enduring values the Queen left behind. But that glow, it's starting to flicker and fade. What really haunts Anne isn't the cutthroat politics, it's the straight-up betrayal of the legacy. For years, she's towed the royal line under her mom's watch, sticking to every dusty protocol and holding the fort for the monarchy through all the wild storms. Now she's seeing those hard-fought sacrifices get traded in for straight opportunism. For the first time ever, Anne's flirting with breaking her ironclad rule of silence. But what shoved her right to the edge? And why's Catherine suddenly the one she's got to shield with that fierce royal fire? It all sparked from one loaded symbolic play, Camilla's scheme, to commission a fresh royal portrait. Wearing the diamond crown that once graced Queen Mary's head. In a family where every gem whispers a piece of history, this choice lit the fuse on a hushed-up feud. Princess Anne's done holding her tongue. What the public got served up as a shiny nod to succession and modern monarchy. It all went down on the palace grounds, and plenty see it as a straight-up calculated power play. Camilla's ask wasn't just about slipping on some bling, it's her way of planting her flag as the true heir to Queen Elizabeth II's throne. And this ain't the crown she rocked at her own coronation. That diamond crown, the iconic one from Queen Mary's era, is tied to the most revered chapters in Windsor history. It's reserved for the women who clawed their way to power through sheer grit and merit, not handed over on a silver platter of proximity or lucky breaks. Camilla knows that all too well. Her team slaved away for months with portrait artists, stylists, and royal curators to pull off this masterstroke. But the plan that was supposed to stay locked down tight, it leaked out of nowhere, unleashing a tidal wave of public backlash that Camilla's camp couldn't rein in. Royal watchers pounced on the timing and the setup in a heartbeat. This wasn't just some photo op, it was a full-blown coronation in disguise. Anne's tightest confidants clocked it right away. The instant she caught wind of that announcement, the ground shifted under her feet. For decades, she danced to the monarchy's unspoken tune of ironclad restraint. But now, that's not restraint holding her back. It's a gut punch of betrayal. That crown hits different for Anne. It once crowned her grandma, then her mom through the crown's stormiest make-or-break years. It's no mere power play, it's the living symbol of moral steel and unbreakable resolve forged and fire-tested across generations. And under Camilla's grip, history's starting to look like it's getting a full-on rewrite. To the public, it might look like a graceful older woman simply paying homage to royal heritage. But Anne sees a stealthy rewrite of the line of succession, one that could eclipse the very values her mother bled to preserve. And she's not the only one getting twitchy. Inside the palace, the whispers are turning into full-blown chatter. Even Charles, who's backed Camilla's role for years, is reportedly nudging the team to rethink that crown choice and pick something less radioactive. Camilla, though, she's digging in her heels. Insiders say Camilla's response was ice-cold, borderline curt. "Let the portrait do the talking," she snapped, but that unspoken flex sent a thunderclap through the corridors. Meanwhile, Catherine, the one quietly holding dignity and composure under skyrocketing pressure and relentless public scrutiny, was conspicuously absent from every discussion about the shoot. She still glides through events with serene poise, but her silence, it screams volumes. Catherine knows exactly what's unfolding, and she knows who's tracking every last detail. Princess Anne, Charles, and their inner circle have been scrambling to play peacemakers. Closed-door meetings, hushed phone calls, and last-ditch pleas to postpone the portrait all happened, but the train had already left the station. Camilla had drawn her line in the sand, and Anne was forced once again to watch the family trade legacy for optics. This time, though, Anne wasn't staying in the shadows, and she sure as hell wasn't going to fight with whispers. Soon she'd make a move that could rattle the monarchy's entire facade. In one rare, unguarded moment, Princess Anne shattered the silence that had bound generations of royals. With a voice that never wavered, she declared she would protect not her sister-in-law, Camilla. But Catherine, the one she believes truly carries the spirit and future of the monarchy. That moment hit like a freaking earthquake. It went down in what was supposed to be a routine internal briefing, just another yawn fest to hash out public events and royal ceremonies. But under the surface, tension had been simmering for ages, and Anne was done swallowing it. Insiders say the second the room fell quiet, Anne shot to her feet, face unreadable, voice sharper than a damn blade. Her words, they've been haunting the palace corridors for weeks. Catherine is the one who carries the Queen's legacy, not Camilla. The weight of that statement hit like a guillotine blade, freezing the room solid for a heartbeat. Even Charles went dead quiet. The air turned thick with shock betrayal and truths no one dared voice. Nobody saw it coming from Anne, the ice-cool, tight-lipped royal who'd never cracked in public. But she'd been pushed way past her limit, and that famously private loyalty, it just went full public testimony. Camilla, who'd strutted in all calm and confident, reportedly turned ghost white on the spot. The attack didn't come from the press, the critics, or the public. It came from inside the palace, from a woman who'd been absolute steel for the monarchy, Anne. For Camilla, this wasn't just a political gut punch. It cut deep personal. She'd banked on Anne's neutrality, maybe even her quiet backing, but the princess's words landed like a kill shot, instant and brutal. Reports say Camilla bolted from the room, brushing off aides, trying to calm her, blindsided by the realization that she might never have truly been accepted by the Queen's eldest daughter. If you were surprised by this story, leave your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and sub to support the channel. Charles, swept up in a tangle of raw emotions, found himself backed into a corner with no clean exit. For decades, he'd juggled public duty against private love. Now, with Anne openly challenging his wife's symbolic claim and dragging the Queen's memory into the ring, every path looked blocked. He tried to cool the fire, floating the idea that legacy could be shared, that every woman deserved her own chapter in royal history. But the damage was done. Anne wasn't just speaking for herself. She was channeling a deeper collective unease and the monarchy's own guilty conscience. Catherine, perched near the edge of the room, was visibly shaken, yet still ice calm. Those in the room recall Catherine gently asking Anne not to escalate things further, trying to dial down the heat. But Anne shut it down. She turned to Catherine and said, "You can stay quiet now, but the whole nation will be watching you." That moment marked a seismic shift in royal dynamics. To Anne, Catherine was no longer just the supportive daughter-in-law or the poised Princess of Wales. In the eyes of the public, soon after, she became the living embodiment of the monarchy's future, even without the official title. This wasn't just a family spat. It was a full-blown power realignment at court. Anne just laid it all out. Her loyalty won't bend to titles, marriages, or political games. It'll be guided by legacy, integrity, and the one who truly embodies the soul of the crown. As the dust settles from that blazing showdown, the palace has no clue that Anne's next move will blow past mere words. After years tucked away, a letter from Queen Elizabeth resurfaces, addressed solely to Anne. But this isn't just a private note. It's a quiet royal directive that Anne believes must be honored, even if it means unearthing a secret the crown buried long ago. The letter had been tucked away among the Queen's personal effects, locked in a secure drawer at Balmoral, a spot only Anne was allowed to touch after her mother's death. It was handed over quietly, no fanfare, no pressure. What Anne found inside flipped the script on everything. It kicked off with gentle reflections, a monarch's memories for her only daughter, a soft nod to the weight they'd both carried for decades. But as she read on, the tone sharpened. The Queen, famous for weighing every word, had chosen her language here with razor clarity, direct and undeniable. She spoke of the future of a day when the world would turn its eyes to the women of the crown. Not for their titles, but for their character. Then came the line that stopped Anne cold: "When that day comes, look to the one who carries it with true dignity." To anyone else, it might have sounded poetic. To Anne, crystal clear. Even back then, her mother had been watching, weighing, deciding who among them would truly safeguard the values she'd spent a lifetime defending. And Anne knew exactly who the Queen meant, not Camilla, with her hunger for status. Not someone who entered the House of Windsor through controversy or compromise. But Catherine's steady hands' quiet strength, the woman who never demanded the crown yet wore it like she was born to it. Anne read the letter over and over, hands trembling, chest tight with a storm of feeling. It wasn't just the words that gutted her. It was the timing. The Queen had penned them during one of the family's darkest wobbles, not long after Harry and Meghan walked away, when the monarchy itself felt like it was teetering on a cliff. In her mother's mind, Anne realized the future wasn't locked in bloodlines or pecking order. It lived in character. And Catherine had become the living proof of that quiet, unshakable steel. For Anne, this wasn't about opinion or personal loyalty anymore. It had become a mandate. The Queen hadn't left a royal decree. But she had left something far more sacred than any decree, a final blessing, a final warning. They say Anne wept alone that night, clutching the letter, the room's silence shattered only by the crushing weight of realization. Her entire life had been defined by duty, loyalty, and service. But now duty had taken on a new form. If she stayed silent, the Queen's voice would fade with her. If she acted, she risked igniting a firestorm within the family. Yet Anne made her choice. Now, armed with the monarch's own words, she was ready to challenge Camilla openly, regally, and without apology. As the portrait scandal spirals further out of control, Camilla's once ironclad inner circle starts to wobble. Whispers of betrayal, emotional meltdowns, and leaked memos expose a queen under siege not by enemies outside the palace walls, but from within her own ranks. What was meant to be a triumphant royal milestone has collapsed into a full-blown legitimacy crisis, shredding Camilla's inner team like an unstoppable storm. The cracks appear quietly at first. The aides who spent years curating her public image are now scrambling as their carefully crafted PR strategy crumbles. Public outrage keeps mounting while support inside the palace quietly evaporates. Behind closed doors, Camilla's rage erupts in rare, white-hot outbursts. According to leaks from Clarence House, she ripped into her longest-serving advisors, furious that the royal portrait narrative had slipped completely from her grasp. She demanded answers. How is Anne running the palace like a master strategist? Why does Catherine's understated grace overshadow the image I've spent years building? And most of all, why isn't the sympathy falling to me? Internal memos start leaking, first defensive, then downright desperate. One note, allegedly penned by Camilla herself, reads, "I am the Queen." Why does she get the sympathy raw and telling it lays bare the core of Camilla's soul? She's realizing a title can't buy affection. The harder she claws for power, the more the public tilts toward Catherine, who says it all without uttering a word. As tensions skyrocket, even her once loyal allies begin peeling away. Some refuse to comment. Others quietly brief journalists describing the Queen's behavior as erratic. The media, already whipped into a frenzy by Anne's defiance, now feasts on leaks straight from Camilla's camp. Her once unbreakable inner circle splinters into factions, diehards, who stay silent defectors, who slip away, and those quietly shifting allegiance to Catherine. Camilla feels her grip slipping. Public events get postponed. Her usual spot beside Charles suddenly goes vacant. Behind locked doors, she stonewalls PR strategists and shoots down every attempt to spin the narrative. Charles, torn between shielding his wife and holding the monarchy together, tries to broker peace. But every word Charles utters in Camilla's defense only deepens the family's silence. Camilla is now isolated, cornered, and worst of all, rejected not just by the public, but by the very institution she fought so hard to be accepted into. Her insistence that she was crowned by the king rings hollow against Catherine's natural dignity and quiet resilience. The queen in title is steadily losing ground to the queen in spirit. Yet through it all, Catherine remains unflinchingly calm. Silent, composed, and completely detached from the drama, her silence becomes her shield. It lets the public see her strength, grace, and wisdom without her ever having to say a word. Anne, watching from the wings, knows that silence is louder than any press release. The monarchy is shifting, and Camilla is no longer the center of attention. But the real jaw-dropper comes when Anne takes her crusade straight to the man who started it all, King Charles. Deep inside Windsor, a showdown nobody saw coming unfolds. Princess Anne stands before her brother not to ask, but to demand, and the ultimatum she delivers leaves the king visibly stunned. This wasn't a public spectacle, nor was it handled through proxies or private notes. Anne summoned Charles directly under the guise of what she called a family matter of national importance. But the moment Charles walked in, he knew this wasn't about protocol or tradition. It was about power principle and their mother's legacy. Anne didn't mince words. Holding the Queen's letter in her hand, she laid out her case with the precision of an officer and the fire of a daughter fiercely loyal to the crown. She hammered home the symbolic weight behind Camilla's portrait, the dangerous rewriting of legacy. And the outrage is now rippling through both the public and the palace. Worse, Anne wields their mother's own voice. She places the letter on the table between them and says flatly, "You know damn well Mum would never allow this. No excuses, just truth." Charles tries to push back, insisting Camilla's position was legally sanctioned by the crown and accepted by the public. But Anne brushes it aside like smoke. No one handed her the soul of this monarchy, she fires back. That moment crystallizes everything. Charles scrambles to reason, framing it as a perception problem rather than reality, stressing that the royal family can't be seen fracturing from within. But Anne was already one step ahead. She reminded the king that the monarchy was already divided, and the only question left was whether he'd lead with courage or keep coasting in comfort. As those words sank in, Charles fell silent. The conversation turned into a cold calculation. Anne pressed on she'd kept the Queen's letter secret until now out of respect. But if Charles refused to act, she'd have no choice but to make its contents public, not to humiliate the crown, but to save it. The message was crystal clear: the era of silent loyalty is over. This is about defending the moral bedrock of the monarchy. If Charles couldn't shoulder that burden, Anne would do it for him. The room fell dead silent, the kind that stretches on forever. Charles, rattled, picked up the letter and read his mother's final words over and over. No shouting, no slammed doors, just the sound of a royal legacy being challenged by the very daughter who'd sworn to protect it at any cost. The confrontation didn't drag on. The very next day, a leaked royal schedule dropped with a bombshell change. Without warning, the palace announced a new ceremonial role previously reserved exclusively for the Queen, and the one stepping up to represent the monarchy, not Camilla, Catherine. The public lost its collective mind. The press went nuclear chattering non-stop. At last, Anne had broadcast her message to the entire world. The announcement dropped at dawn on the official royal website, quiet, but about as subtle as a sledgehammer. Catherine, Princess of Wales, would represent the crown at a global peace summit, an honor previously reserved solely for the reigning monarch or their consort. Camilla's name nowhere to be found. The timing was way too perfect to be coincidence. Just days after Anne's showdown with Charles, and right in the middle of the Camilla portrait firestorm. The message was unmistakable. The future face of the crown would be grace, not dominance, dignity, not deflection. And that face now belonged to Catherine. Inside the royal household, whispers turned to murmurs of approval. Anne hadn't just suggested the change, she'd forced it through. Palace insiders revealed she was in near-constant meetings with senior aides in the days following her clash with Charles. Her influence, once quiet and rarely flexed, had become the driving force behind a movement. And Catherine, though initially hesitant, accepted the role with the calm resolve that defined her. This was not a nominal promotion, but a statement of presence. And that presence resonated around the world when Catherine appeared at the summit, escorted by royal advisors and key dignitaries. Her appearance sent a message that no decree could convey: this is the woman leading the monarchy forward. Camilla, notably absent from all events that week, remained hidden behind the palace doors. The silence surrounding her absence was even more powerful than any denial. Her team tried to control the narrative, but it was too late. Public opinion polls in support of Catherine skyrocketed. Editorials across Europe and the Commonwealth praised a rightful queen rising to prominence. In that pivotal moment, Camilla's name gradually faded, not erased, but overshadowed. The roles had shifted, and the public recognized it. This was not merely a symbolic change, it was a seismic shift in the royal hierarchy. Yet it was not titles or appearances that defined the moment. It was Catherine's words, humble, measured, focused not on power or lineage, but on duty and legacy. She said service is not something inherited, but a way of life. The audience of world leaders and international press rose to their feet. The crowd not only applauded, but also chanted her name. It was a scene the monarchy had not witnessed in decades, since Diana, since Elizabeth. Anne stood quietly behind, not with pride, but with relief. The message had arrived. Her mother's legacy had found a worthy successor. Yet in the shadows of victory, one final shock awaited. Camilla was preparing a counterstrike, an unexpected move that would shake the entire palace. Veiled beneath the layers of royal tradition, but Anne was ready. As the nation watched, the future of the monarchy suddenly became uncertain, teetering on the edge of conflict. After Catherine assumed the representative role, Camilla vanished from the public eye. Days passed, shrouded in silence, no comments, no clarifications, no countermeasures. Yet behind the stone walls of Clarence House, a covert plan was unfolding, one so audacious that even the closest staff were left stunned. Camilla was reportedly ordering preparations for a private, independent coronation tour. Not to celebrate Charles's reign, but as a direct symbolic assertion of her own authority. She would travel alone, donning royal regalia, visiting key Commonwealth sites, a move her aides described as a loyalty awakening. But to the rest of the royal family, it was far more perilous, almost resembling an open coup. Senior courtiers were stunned. The mere proposal of a solo tour without the king, without official approval, was unprecedented. And without the consent of the royal council, it was unthinkable. It bypassed all diplomatic protocol, shook the unity of the institution, and directly challenged the system upon which the monarchy relied to maintain order. For Camilla, this was the final card she had to play. She knew Charles's health was under scrutiny, public support was waning, and power was slipping from her grasp. If she could reach the people, first reclaim empathy and backing the throne could be reinforced. Her team moved swiftly, selecting regions, preparing attire, drafting speeches. Yet they had not accounted for one crucial factor: Anne was far from finished fighting. The moment Anne learned of Camilla's secret plan, she convened an emergency meeting not with Charles, but with the group of senior royal members who had remained silent until now. That silence was about to be broken, and the unprecedented confrontation between the two powerful women in the palace was entering its decisive phase. She carried with her a letter from the Queen and read it aloud in the silent room. No arguments followed, only stunned disbelief. For many, it was the first time they realized that the issue was not merely about image or rivalry. It was a matter of principle. It was the truth. As the late Queen's will became widely known, factions began to form. Two clear groups emerged, those loyal to Anne and Catherine, heirs to the Queen's legacy and ideals, and those who sought personal gain, rallying around Camilla in hopes of inheriting power through loyalty. Catherine, admired by both sides, suddenly found herself caught in the eye of the storm. Her silence, once praised, was now interpreted differently by each faction, by some as wisdom, by others as passivity. Yet Catherine refused to be used. She gave no interviews and issued no public statements. This is purely for reference purposes, only based on hypotheses and unverified rumors/public opinion. Let's discuss it from an objective, analytical perspective. And quietly returning to her family, leaving the brutal battlefield behind, she became a symbol of dignity within the monarchy, tearing apart long-standing ties. The press fed off the chaos, with analysts calling it the Battle of the Crowns. Behind the palace gates, the Queen's legacy trembled in uncertain hands. Who do you think is truly in control of the royal legacy, Catherine or Camilla? If you choose Catherine, leave a 1. If Camilla, comment 0. Enjoy the video and don't forget to leave a sub to support the channel so you won't miss the next thrilling episodes. There are stories that are not just rumors or news, but secrets hidden behind a glamorous facade. A man, through vague documents and falsehoods, attempted to infiltrate my family's world, using fear to make people believe completely untrue things. Sensational accusations against the royal family were made, causing my loved ones, especially my mother, to face constant paranoia. We cannot deny that for decades, Princess Diana's life and legacy have captivated the world. Her grace, compassion, and especially the extraordinary connection she had with the public made her an irreplaceable icon. However, behind that glamorous image, she was a loving and self-sacrificing mother who always prioritized her family above all else. After years of being kept secret, a forgotten letter from Princess Diana to Prince William has unexpectedly resurfaced. What makes this letter so important? And could its words completely change how we understand the mother-son relationship within the royal family? The story begins with a quiet auction in London in July 2004. No sensational headlines, no dramatic events, simply a list of handwritten letters from Princess Diana put up for auction. These letters are not carefully edited official documents, but rather authentic and profound moments from her life. The letter that particularly drew attention was one about Prince William. In this letter, she is not just a mother, but a woman with profound thoughts and intense emotions. Written by Violet Collison, a close friend of the Spencer family, these letters open up a world that very few people have ever seen. These letters reveal a Diana unlike any royal figure. She wasn't a perfect woman, but a mother, a wife, and an ordinary human being with anxieties, joys, sorrows, and pressures she couldn't share with anyone. In particular, a letter written in July 1981 before her wedding to Prince Charles shows a young bride amidst the final preparations of her wedding, yet maintaining a rare composure in the midst of the chaos. The words in this letter are a clear testament to the inner strength she had to maintain through all the trials. Could these letters reveal things we never knew about Princess Diana? And why are there secrets that the world has waited until now to be revealed? The story doesn't end here, and the question remains, are these secrets really that important, or are they just small pieces in a more complex picture of royalty? There are letters that are more than just words. They are the imprints of a mother, the thoughts hidden within the lines. Princess Diana was always a symbol of compassion and closeness to the public, but her handwritten letters reveal a much deeper side. Over time, the tone in those letters changed, from the excitement of a young princess to anxiety, disappointment, and boundless devotion to her children. These letters are not simply personal notes. They are heartfelt expressions of unconditional love messages about the happiness and future of Prince William and Harry. However, what makes them extraordinary is not just what Diana wrote, but the subtle emotions behind each word. These are quiet, private moments far removed from the spotlight of the media, yet they reveal the deepest truth about the mother Diana was. One of the most notable letters written on June 21, 1989 to Sergeant George Plum is a testament to Diana's gratitude for those around her. But what's even more remarkable is that alongside her signature, there are tiny handwritten notes from William and Harry, a warm, simple family moment rarely seen in public. This not only shows Diana's love for her children, but also her desire for them to grow up in a warm and loving environment, a stark contrast to the cold and strict mold of the royal family. Undoubtedly, these letters will always be irreplaceable documents in exploring the complex relationships and genuine love between Diana and the royal family. Was her choice of how to raise her children a way of coping with the strict constraints of the royal family, or a constant struggle to retain what she considered her humanity in a world fraught with pressure and expectations? Do you believe Diana created a new model of royal parenting, or were her choices simply a reaction to the strict norms imposed by the royal family? Share your thoughts in the comments below. In a world where royalty constantly faced the spotlight and relentless media scrutiny, Princess Diana created a special space where her sons Prince William and Harry could grow up with a simple and authentic childhood. Diana, that mother, was not only a symbol of compassion, but also a strong woman willing to sacrifice her own safety so that her children could understand life outside the palace walls. According to former royal bodyguard Ken Worf, Diana did everything she could to take her children to amusement parks, let them experience simple meals at fast food restaurants, and even ride public buses together, not for PR purposes, but simply because she wanted them to understand and experience life outside the glory of royalty. However, there is a bigger question. Did Diana truly succeed in ensuring that William and Harry were not completely isolated from the real world? Or were they just a small part of a larger picture of protection and control she imposed on their lives? She created a wonderful protective environment, but also didn't forget to show her children the real world outside of royal ceremonies. Diana not only wanted her children to have a normal childhood, but also always tried to protect them from media scrutiny, which she knew very well could cause serious harm. By requiring palace officials to organize public photo shoots for important moments in her children's lives, such as their first day of school or family holidays, she created a delicate balance between respecting family privacy and the inevitable curiosity of the public. Diana's letters to William were not simply routine updates. They were profound records of a mother's love and a testament to her dedication to preparing her children for the world outside the palace, while also protecting them from the harsh realities that society could bring. By the time these letters appeared at auction in 2004, William was no longer a young boy. He has grown into a young man attending university, and perhaps the lessons Diana imparted to him from a young age continue to influence his life. It's a constant connection between mother and son, evident in every letter, every thought she shared. Princess Diana's letters are not just dry words. They are a testament to a mother's intense love and wisdom, demonstrating the profound influence she left on Prince William's life, even as the world mourns her sudden passing. She created a world where William and Harry could grow up with a simple and authentic childhood, something very few in the royal family have had the opportunity to experience. How do you feel about Diana's sacrifices and love for her children? Did she truly succeed in keeping William and Harry from becoming isolated from the real world? Leave a comment with a 2 if you agree, or a 5 if you disagree. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our latest videos. Thank you so much and see you in the next video. 7 years after her tragic death, the monarchy had not yet fully adapted to the changes Diana had initiated, but William's increasing public appearances made many feel as though he were Diana's emotional heir. These letters were not only historical artifacts, but also reminders of what was lost. A mother who never saw her children grow up, never saw them build families, and fight for the ideals she would have been proud of. Diana never lived to see William and Harry become the men she had envisioned, but through her handwritten notes, her voice lives on. Not in polished speeches or formal appearances, but in sincere, warm, and loving words. This transformed the auction of her letters into a profoundly meaningful event, allowing the world to feel Diana's presence again, even though she is no longer here. These letters are not simply documents, but a testament to the profound love she had for William and a legacy she left to her son. A legacy not just in words or images, but in the way she lived each day. For Diana, the legacy of motherhood was not just about bold choices or quiet acts of defiance against royal tradition. At the heart of it all is a simple yet profound truth. Before William and Harry became global figures, they were just 2 boys with an extraordinary mother. Diana understood that royal privilege always came with immense pressure. From the beginning, she was determined to give her children more than just titles or ranks. She wanted them to have a real childhood free from the constraints of royal norms. Diana's parenting style began on June 21, 1982, when she became a mother for the first time, giving birth to Prince William. At just 20 years old, Diana's transition from a young girl to a mother was a major turning point in her life. This wasn't just a role she accepted, but a mission she embraced wholeheartedly. Unlike previous royal mothers who adhered strictly to tradition, Diana chose a different path. She didn't want to be aloof from her children's lives. She wanted them to grow up in a close environment where they felt loved and cared for, where the world outside the palace wasn't something alien, but an integral part of their lives. Princess Diana was not only an icon of grace and compassion, but also a devoted mother who longed to be present in every moment of her son's life. She broke seemingly unbreakable royal rules, starting with breastfeeding Prince William, a rare act in royal history. Diana also did not let the palace decide her son's name, choosing it herself, demonstrating her strength and independence as a mother. One of Diana's most significant decisions was her refusal to have staff care for her children. Instead of following tradition when William was born, even though Prince Charles was away on official business in Australia, Diana decided not to leave her son's side. She took William with her, sending a clear message no royal duty was more important than being with her children. This was a bold decision demonstrating her devotion and responsibility to her children. As William grew older, Diana continued to defy royal expectations. Instead of hiring private tutors like previous generations of royalty, she enrolled William in a local nursery near Kensington Palace. The image of a princess personally dropping off and picking up her son was not only an act of independence, but also a quiet revolution in royal parenting. It was a testament to Diana's desire to give her children a close, simple childhood completely different from what people imagined about the life of a member of the royal family. But Diana didn't stop at those simple actions. She wanted to give her children a life free from the confines of the royal bubble. William and Harry's childhood was filled with ordinary moments that any child would wish for. Diana took them to places like McDonald's or amusement parks, not because she loved fast food, but because she wanted them to experience the things that normal children do. She also took them on the London Underground, letting them meet people who didn't bow or speak formally. These trips were not simply pleasure excursions, but meticulously planned life lessons. Diana wanted her sons to understand the world outside the palace, to see life from all perspectives. This is confirmed by Kenworth, Diana's former bodyguard, who revealed that she chose the quietest times and minimized the presence of security on these trips. Diana even cleverly disguised herself to move unnoticed among crowds, clearly demonstrating her desire to protect her son's privacy. More than just providing her children with a close-knit childhood, Diana taught William and Harry the values of compassion. She constantly nurtured in them an open heart, ready to share and empathize with those in need. One of the most memorable moments was when she took William to visit Centrepoint, a charity that helps homeless young people in London. This was not just a visit, but a crucial lesson in love and social responsibility. Princess Diana was not only a mother, but also the founder of a completely new way of raising children within the royal family, not only changing old rules, but also defying traditional expectations. When she took William to visit homeless and underprivileged children, it wasn't just a lesson about the hardships of others' lives, but a way to teach him about the responsibilities that came with his privilege. These moments not only highlight Diana's compassion, but also affirm her determination to create a better future for her children. She not only taught them love, but also helped them understand the importance of facing the real world, a world beyond the palace walls. Diana not only changed the way children were raised in the royal family, but redefined the very concept. The relationship between her and her sons was not just that of a mother and her children, but a deep, unbreakable bond. Throughout the early 1990s, as her marriage to Prince Charles crumbled and the world witnessed the collapse of their relationship, Diana found her only anchor in the place where she placed her unwavering faith, her two sons. Amidst the chaos of royal life, the relentless media speculation, personal pain, and political intrigues within the palace, Diana devoted all her energy to raising and protecting her sons from the turmoil around them. Diana understood that under public scrutiny, raising children was not just a responsibility but a constant struggle. She chose schools that not only offered quality education, but also protected her children's privacy and mental well-being. Diana didn't simply hand her children over to the school and hope everything would be all right. She was directly involved in William and Harry's school life, participating in school events and attending every sports day. The thank you letters she wrote to school staff, these small but heartfelt gestures, further highlighted her dedication to motherhood, a role more important than anything else. When Diana and Charles officially separated in 1992, things became more difficult than ever. But Diana didn't let this change affect her parenting. Despite the constant scrutiny surrounding her royal life, Diana remained deeply involved in her children's daily lives. By 1995, when she gave her famous interview to journalist Martin Bashir, the world had witnessed the undeniable cracks in royal life. But Diana's priorities remained clear. She always put her sons first. In that interview, Diana candidly shared her desire to raise her children with kindness, love, and resilience, emphasizing the importance of emotional intelligence over adherence to royal protocol. It was a powerful moment when a princess placed humanity above all rules and traditions. Shortly afterward, Queen Elizabeth II urged Diana to finalize her divorce, marking a significant turning point in the royal family. Diana, despite facing numerous challenges in her royal life, found strength in her sons. Although she felt isolated, her voice unheard, and constantly pushed aside, William and Harry were always a solid support system, helping her weather the storms of life. When her marriage to Prince Charles ended, she faced personal pain and media pressure, but nothing could shake her devotion and love for her children. After her divorce was finalized in 1996, Diana not only lost her title as princess, but also faced a profound change in her personal life. She no longer held a royal title, and by protocol would one day have to bow to her own sons. This devastated Diana not for political or power reasons, but for something deeply personal. She was no longer recognized in the way she had been accustomed to her entire life. However, when she shared this worry with William, his response brought her more comfort than ever. William, only 14 at the time, said, "Don't worry, Mother. One day when I become king, I will repay you." Although William never publicly acknowledged this story, these words reveal the deep love and respect between mother and son. After leaving the monarchy, Diana found strength not only in her personal ideals, but also in the charitable work she undertook. From homelessness to raising awareness about HIV and the fight against landmines, Diana dedicated herself tirelessly to the issues she believed in. No longer representing the monarchy, she began to represent her own values, where love, compassion, and justice played a central role. Diana also continuously sent heartfelt letters to friends, staff, and supporters. These letters not only reflected her thoughts on social issues, but also served as notes about her sons. She wrote about William's kindness, Harry's dynamism, and her hopes for their future. While Diana knew she couldn't control her sons' futures, she ensured that through love and devotion, she instilled in them qualities no royal system could fully provide: empathy, courage, and the strength to become true men. Diana's parenting style wasn't a royal duty or a part of tradition. For her, it was about being fully present, listening, and loving genuinely, consistently, and wholeheartedly. Diana was more than just a mother. She was a mother who always made time for her children no matter how difficult life got. Every night, she rocked William and Harry to sleep. Every day, she wrote them letters, and most importantly, she always told the truth, even when it was challenging. This is how she nurtured not only their bodies, but also their souls, helping them grow in an environment full of love and understanding. In 1992, the official separation of Diana and Prince Charles was not only a milestone in royal life, but also a crucial turning point in Diana's life. Although no longer living with Charles, she never let it affect her responsibilities as a mother. Diana always put William and Harry first, and during this turbulent period, she became even more dedicated to protecting their spirits and helping them navigate the difficulties that royal life and the separation brought. When William was just 10 and Harry 8, the need for family stability became increasingly urgent. Diana understood that this was a time when her love and attention would help her children thrive regardless of the changes around them. During these months, Diana managed their daily lives directly involved in their studies and weekend plans. As the royal marriage crumbled, Diana began to be more open about her personal struggles, one of the most shocking moments being on June 29, 1994, when Charles publicly admitted his infidelity. Less than a year later, on November 20th, 1995, Diana responded in her own way through a shocking interview on the show, Panorama of the BBC. In the 38-minute interview, she candidly shared about the challenges of royal life, her struggles with mental health, and her profound feelings of loneliness. However, what moved the public most was not the revelations about Diana's private life, but her heartfelt words about her children. Diana expressed her wish that William and Harry would not only receive a royal education, but also be taught emotional intelligence and understand the realities of ordinary life. Her words stirred a powerful emotional response, attracting over 22 million viewers in the UK alone, sparking a dialogue about royal parenting and the values Diana wanted to instill in her children. However, Diana's candid revelations not only shocked the public, but also disrupted the royal family. The swift and decisive reaction from Queen Elizabeth II, after consulting with advisors, including the Archbishop of Canterbury and the Prime Minister, led to Diana and Charles initiating formal divorce proceedings. Diana, despite having made significant and bold decisions in her personal life, could not help but feel pain at this decision, a sign of the breakdown not only within her family but also in her relationship with the royal family. Diana, even after leaving the royal family and losing her title as princess, remained a devoted mother, and the close relationship between her and her sons, especially William, became even more apparent during the most painful moments of her life. Following her divorce from Prince Charles in 1996, a profound change occurred in Diana's life. Losing the title Her Highness, she not only felt a deep rejection, but also had to confront the inevitable shifts in her relationship with the royal family. However, throughout these turbulent years, Diana found solace and stability in her two sons. Although no longer under the protection of the royal family and her previous support system, Diana continued to dedicate herself to humanitarian work and devoted her time entirely to William and Harry. The organizations she supported, such as Centrepoint Great Ormond Street Hospital and the Leprosy Mission, are testament to her powerful influence. However, during this time, she still faced a profound sense of loneliness, something not everyone could recognize given her glamorous life. In her private letters, Diana shared her anxieties about her safety, particularly when she wrote about a plan to cause an accident that she believed Prince Charles had orchestrated for her. While the authenticity of this letter remains a subject of debate, it reflects a deeply insecure aspect of her life, a constant feeling of being watched and unsafe. Despite facing personal hardships and the pressures of royal life, Diana remained committed to making a difference in the world. Powerful images of her in protective gear walking through a minefield in Angola have become unforgettable historical moments, a testament to her courage and influence in humanitarian work. Diana leveraged her position to draw attention to important issues not only within the royal family, but globally. Diana also consistently instilled in William and Harry a strong sense of responsibility, teaching them that true leadership isn't about power, but about the opportunity to serve others. One of her statements to William when discussing her humanitarian work was, "Use your position to help those who have no voice." These are invaluable lessons, values she wanted to pass on to her sons, and they live on, profoundly influencing William and Harry, even though Diana is no longer with them. On August 31st, 1997, when Diana died in a horrific car accident in Paris, the world was shocked. The final images of William and Harry, then only 15 and 12 years old, walking behind their mother's coffin, showed their profound and indescribable grief. However, ladies and gentlemen, in the world of modern intelligence, silence does not mean peace. Sometimes it is the sign of an undercurrent storm being handled by the most advanced security protocols. Recently, international cybersecurity observers have been buzzing over a shocking hypothesis. Is it possible that a renowned federal investigative agency is quietly activating Level 1 surveillance mode on a public figure who was once part of the royal family? Unverified sources suggest that the incident began with a strange signal penetrating the most inviolable place of all the data files of a child member of the royal family. Join us as we decode the fragments of this potential security case through the lens of systems analysis. According to corridor chatter, experts from the Digital Protection Unit have detected anomalies in traffic flow. The target was not assets, but real-time location data and the academic schedule of a young VIP. Experts assess that this was not the work of impulsive hackers. The method of access to the private school's data portal suggests the intruder appeared to have detailed knowledge of internal procedures. Rather than making a public announcement that could cause panic, the defensive system seems to have opted for a strategy of silent containment, coordinating across channels between MI5 and intelligence partners across the ocean to trace the activity back to its source. The story grows even more gripping when we analyze the digital coordinates. There are unverified rumors suggesting that electronic traces led investigators to an IP address linked to former personnel who once served on the staff of a duchess. One detail with a distinctly detective novel flavor has been highlighted by the online community surveillance logs allegedly leaked, recorded the presence of a related individual in the Notting Hill area. Coincidentally, this location fell within the signal radius of a cybersecurity firm just 24 hours after the data breach occurred. Is this merely a random coincidence explained by statistical probability, or a calculated link in a deliberate chain of actions? We cannot say for certain yet, but in the world of counterintelligence, coincidence is rarely taken at face value. Wait a moment. Let me ask you something. Is there anyone here who believes in coincidences that line up down to the very second like this? Comment number 2 if you think this was orchestrated. If you believe it was purely random, leave a number 5 in the comments below. Your perspective is crucial as we move forward into the forensic evidence segment coming up next. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel to stay updated with our upcoming videos. If this hypothesis is correct, then the matter has moved beyond the realm of entertainment gossip and crossed into the threshold of national security. An anonymous source, reportedly from within a federal investigative agency, has hinted at the possible existence of a dedicated digital forensic analysis operation. According to this account, not only public devices but the entire digital ecosystem surrounding this individual, from encrypted communication channels and internal applications to disposable devices, burner phones, is now under forensic scrutiny. The system appears to have determined that the intrusion was not an isolated incident. It looked more like a comprehensive data collection effort spanning everything from charitable logistics systems to the travel schedules of other senior figures within the royal family. Anonymous intelligence sources are now raising a chilling hypothesis. What we are witnessing is not simply the curiosity of a single individual, but rather a structured information harvesting matrix, with the ultimate objective being to narrow and control access to high-level logistics data related to the royal family's young members. The severity of the situation reached a peak amid rumors that the UK's cyber threat response team, an entity typically activated only in the face of national-level terrorist plots, had quietly been brought in. In leaked redacted documents, although the identity of the central figure was obscured, the coded phrase, "a close partner in North America," appeared repeatedly more than 20 times, standing out as a dangerous variable in this security equation. Across the ocean, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI, is reportedly believed to have expanded its scanning perimeter to the Montecito area. We are not talking about classic phone tapping, but the most advanced signal intelligence SIGINT measures analyzing data packets over Wi-Fi and using artificial intelligence AI to isolate voices from ambient noise. On July 1st, an independent digital forensic analyst known by the alias Digital Barrister released a startling finding. Data traces from this location indicated an abnormal and sudden spike in outbound traffic. The timing aligned perfectly down to the very second with the moment the security breach occurred in London. The hypothesis being raised is this was someone carrying out a large-scale data transmission right under the noses of the authorities. The tension truly escalated when a whistleblower revealed the existence of ambient audio recordings, a type of evidence that is legally permitted to be collected only under statutes governing foreign counterintelligence operations. Linguistic experts analyzing the recording concluded that it involved the use of dual-use language. What outwardly sounded like an ordinary PR discussion actually contained coded references to damage control and mentions of a master file designed with encryption to prevent reverse tracing. The tension truly erupted when a whistleblower revealed the existence of ambient audio recordings, a type of evidence that is legally permitted to be collected only under provisions governing foreign counterintelligence operations. Linguistic experts analyzing the recording concluded that it involved the use of dual-use language. What outwardly sounded like an ordinary PR discussion actually contained coded references to damage control and mentions of a master file designed with encryption to prevent reverse tracing. The situation grew even more gripping with the emergence of a memo titled Operation Mind Archive. This intelligence report highlighted 3 critical details: a sudden surge in encrypted calls just before H-hour and repeated data transmissions to a suspicious IP address in Berlin, a location previously linked to past diplomatic leaks. And most alarming of all, an audio clip is said to contain an ultimatum-like statement: "If they want war, we will deliver the truth." Analysts believe this line implies that the data collection was not intended for immediate use, but rather to build an information arsenal designed to exert strategic pressure on the monarchy. Notably, the wording suggests a systematic fixation on the future monarch Princess Charlotte. The era of street corner speculation appears to be over, as observers now assess that the situation has escalated from a family dispute into a transnational security matrix. Leaked information suggests the emergence of an unprecedented cooperative mechanism between the FBI United States and its MI5 and MI6 counterparts. United Kingdom provisionally referred to as Operation Ivy. In internal security documents reportedly circulating, the central figure is no longer identified by name, but has instead been assigned the code name Subject Number 1. Buckingham Palace now appears to be facing not only media scrutiny, but also immense pressure demanding transparency over this alleged security vulnerability. But what sends the deepest chill through behavioral psychology experts is the reaction of the central figure: absolute silence. No legal denial statements. No cryptic social media posts as seen in the past. No PR maneuvers whatsoever. This sudden disappearance from the media battlefield is referred to by intelligence analysts as a strategic vacuum. It signals that the narrative has shifted from entertainment gossip to a high-risk reality where civilian legal levers are no longer effective and all sides are cautiously watching one another as if engaged in a geopolitical chess match. July 10th marked a turning point when the firewall was breached. A 17-page classified file titled Subject M, One Timeline and Anomalous Trigger Factors was leaked through encrypted channels on the dark web. The document provided a digital forensics map containing data described as irrefutable, including geoint, geospatial intelligence. On June 18th, location tracking reportedly showed the subject remaining for 19 minutes outside a critical telecommunications infrastructure facility in Virginia, a site not accessible to civilians. Device evidence: a decrypted log from a burner phone recorded a message sent just 16 hours after the royal family data leak. The translated content is chilling completed. I need to establish plausible deniability. This detail implies a calculated effort to erase traces of linkage rather than merely creating geographic distance. The report also reveals an internal FBI note describing Subject M1's strategy as desensitization, a process aimed at gradually conditioning the public to repeated leaks of private information involving royal minors, thereby reducing public outrage over time. As this information began to surface, paparazzi lenses captured images of a black SUV speeding out of the Montecito estate, with the individual inside heavily shielded by a dense security detail. This did not resemble a casual outing, but rather bore the hallmarks of an emergency extraction protocol triggered when a situation spirals beyond control. By July 11th, whispers had turned into a red alert. Diplomatic sources indicated that MI6 and the FBI had carried out a rare information exchange procedure, one typically reserved for high-level espionage investigations. Meghan Markle's file is reportedly no longer categorized under celebrity, but has instead been labeled cross-domain sensitive influence risk. The final question posed to us is this: when an individual holds the data keys to a monarchical institution, does that constitute personal freedom or a national security threat? According to prevailing hypotheses among observers, we are witnessing an asymmetric information war. The close circle around Subject M1 Meghan is believed to have engineered a calculated destabilization campaign targeting the royal family's credibility in child rearing, with the ultimate focal point being the Duchess of Cambridge Kate. However, the atmosphere inside the palace has shifted. Leaked images show Kate leaving a high-level security meeting with an expression analysts describe as a steely composure. Internal sources confirm that she has moved from passive defense to legal counteroffensive mode. This is no longer about image management, but the instinct of a mother prepared to expose her opponent in order to establish an absolute safety zone for Princess Charlotte. However, the atmosphere inside the palace has indeed changed as leaked images once again capture Kate departing a top-tier security briefing with that same unmistakably cold, resolute demeanor. Internal sources confirm that she has shifted from a stance of passive defense to a legal counteroffensive. This is no longer about preserving public image, but the instinct of a mother prepared to expose her adversary in order to establish an absolute safety zone for Princess Charlotte. Back in London, Kate is reportedly not waiting to be rescued. She is said to be quietly compiling a forensic chronicle, a comprehensive collection of digital evidence documenting the attacks dating back to 2021. This forms the foundation for a potentially explosive legal case. The situation is said to be so serious that Meghan's name has reportedly been placed into a restricted database, making her the subject of an unprecedented cross-border surveillance operation targeting a civilian. The question being asked is no longer does she want to respond, but rather, from a legal standpoint, does she still have the right to speak at all? On July 14th, the crisis is said to have officially crossed the threshold into a matter of national security. The UK Parliament's Homeland Security Committee convened an emergency session. Although most of the meeting minutes were heavily redacted, the initials MM remained clearly visible in the discussion section, addressing unauthorized foreign digital intrusion targeting royal minors. Tensions escalated to an extreme level when leaked internal messages revealed that aides were no longer using the term PR incident. Instead, they adopted a far more severe designation: espionage. This keyword trended for a full 7 hours, thrusting the name Meghan into the center of suspicions that extend far beyond the boundaries of mere entertainment. According to rapidly spreading chatter across closed military forums, a startling hypothesis has emerged. Could this figure have been operating within the gray zone of a passive surveillance process for as long as 3 weeks before the story broke? Some images allegedly leaked from authorities, though still unverified, have even hinted that she was classified as a person of interest in connection with security protocols protecting royal minors. While variable M1 stands at the eye of the storm of suspicion, variable H Prince Harry has been making a series of deeply perplexing moves. He completely vanished from the U.S. media radar, only to be unexpectedly seen quietly boarding a private flight to Zurich, Switzerland. No wife, no children, no royal security detail. Insiders are asking the obvious question: why Zurich, the global hub of discreet financial dealings? Is he searching for a safe financial harbor or secretly negotiating an exit strategy after realizing that a legal storm may be about to crash down on his wife? What do you think this solo trip represents, a flight or a search for allies? Leave your speculation in the comments below. The answer may lie within that royal briefcase. Ladies and gentlemen, the moment of truth has arrived. Allegedly irrefutable digital evidence has surfaced, signaling an end to all denials. Media reports claim that a chain of emails was decrypted from the inbox of a close aide and traced back to an IP address in Los Angeles, widely known as the base of operations for Subject M1's security team. The email content is said to confirm a chilling assertion: access links to Charlotte's school data archive were approved from an external source. But the most shocking plot twist in the history of royal security has now emerged. The aide chose a side. Instead of continuing to conceal the truth, this individual is reportedly coming clean, agreeing to become a whistleblower in exchange for protection. Leaked information suggests that this key witness has now been placed under MI6's Special Protection Program. The fact that a foreign intelligence service has successfully penetrated Meghan's inner circle signals that this is no longer a private family matter. Public opinion has shifted irreversibly. Even major U.S. media outlets, such as CNN, have begun to change their tone. They no longer frame this as celebrity drama, but are instead questioning a potential national security risk strategy. In response, an unprecedented meeting, unseen since the era of Princess Diana, was convened between senior members of the royal family and British intelligence leadership. A decision was made immediately to activate the double guard protocol for Princess Charlotte. The situation grew even more ominous when a July 13th memo revealed that social engineering attacks originating from California-based IP addresses continued even after the aide defected. This development forced intelligence officials to reinstate the codename Operation Ivy, Subject M1 is now no longer viewed merely as a political irritant, but has been reclassified as a systemic threat to institutional stability. Prince William has officially elevated the crisis to the diplomatic level by convening an emergency meeting with the UK Prime Minister. The message being sent is unmistakably clear. This is a coordinated effort to undermine the monarchy from across the Atlantic. The contrast between the two sides of this divide has never been sharper. In the United States, Meghan is seen in Montecito surrounded by private security forces, reportedly linked to former NSA personnel, an image defined by defensiveness and isolation. In stark contrast, Kate Middleton appears at the United Nations, delivering a flawless address that projects resilience and the soft power of a future queen. Ladies and gentlemen, based on the rapid developments we have just witnessed, strategic analysts broadly agree on one conclusion. Meghan Markle's personal brand and political credibility have suffered a permanent structural fracture. This is not an injury that can be repaired through PR campaigns or self-produced documentaries. As for the palace, while the surface appears as calm as still water, the subtle signals being sent suggest that their response operation is far from over. Once the red line concerning child security was crossed, the rules of the royal family changed completely. The silence from Buckingham Palace at this moment is not a sign of weakness, but the calm before a tsunami. Can Meghan Markle turn the tide, or will the M1 file mark the end of her Hollywood ambitions? The answer may well lie in the hands of the FBI disclaimer. This video is compiled based on hypotheses and rumors for analytical and entertainment purposes only. Which side are you on in this royal power struggle? Press 1 if you support the decisive stance of the British royal family. Press 0 if you still believe in the innocence of the Sussex household. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss the latest developments. Goodbye and see you next time. Is a soft coup unfolding behind the velvet curtains of Buckingham Palace? Insider whispers speak of a quiet alliance between Princess Anne and Princess Kate aimed at repositioning or, more bluntly, isolating Queen Camilla. The royal legacy does not tolerate dilution. And when the gatekeepers begin to move, this is not petty rivalry, but a self-defense mechanism of an entire institution. So what is really happening? Let's decode it together. It was once an abstract concept, but at Buckingham right now it carries immense weight, heavy enough to crush individual egos and reshape an entire reign. Why is a system built on continuity suddenly showing such deep fractures? Are we witnessing a transition or a form of natural elimination? This analysis is based on public sentiment, body language, and theories circulating within the royal watching community and has not been officially confirmed. We are discussing this objectively. The memory file of the late Diana is being reopened. The coldness of Anne or Kate is not a momentary emotion, it is a defensive reaction of a system that eliminates what it deems illegitimate. It may be the system's self-protective response to what it considers incompatible with the standards of the throne. But on this chessboard of the century, who is the one commanding the game and who is merely a pawn to decode the present? We are compelled to look into the mirror of the past. But is Kate truly acting alone? In a world governed by rules, no move made by the Princess of Wales is without the consent of the man at the top of the line of succession, Prince William. Sources leaking from Kensington Palace suggest that William maintains a polite but cold distance from his stepmother. To William, Camilla remains a permanent reminder of the years of suffering endured by his mother Diana. If Kate is the one carrying out the rituals of isolation on the public stage, then William is the one approving that strategy behind closed doors. Imagine a chessboard where the King Charles is trying to protect the Queen Camilla, while the Rook and the Bishop William and Kate are quietly closing in to prepare for a new reign, a reign they want to be completely cleansed of past controversies. This is not merely a family conflict, it is the preparation for the cleanest possible transfer of power. The palace has never been a place of just tea parties and roses. It is a grand stage of perfectly managed appearances, where the undercurrents of power collide with brutal force. The history of Buckingham Palace is no stranger to purges of power from the days of Henry VIII to the present. But why, in the 21st century, does the question of Camilla's legitimacy still provoke figures like Princess Anne to such determination? The answer lies not in the past, but in the future of the crown. Never underestimate the power of the men in gray, the private secretaries and senior advisors who keep the royal machine running. Why would they allow these rumors to spread? Never underestimate the power of the men in gray, the private secretaries and senior advisors who operate the royal machine. So why let the rumors circulate? The objective is clear: to protect the symbolic authority of the crown. If the public begins to view the royal family as a long-running soap opera, its dignity erodes. Therefore, repositioning Camilla into a more subdued role becomes a way to excise a troublesome tumor and restore the calm that Buckingham Palace deems necessary. So, if history is riddled with blemishes, why has the case of the current queen become the focal point of such harsh scrutiny from within the institution itself, specifically from what is believed to be Princess Anne's perspective? Perhaps the issue lies not only in the past, but in the very definition of legitimacy. Before we delve deeper into an examination of these fractures, let us reset the context of the broader picture. Caught between ironclad rules and human emotion, is a position ever permanently secured by a title alone, or does it require the consent of the gatekeepers of history? What do you think about the real power operating behind those closed doors? We need to acknowledge a fundamental reality: the perfection of the royal family is by nature a triumph of image management. Yet behind the programmed smiles and the choreographed waves, history has shown that the palace has always been a miniature geopolitical hotspot of ambition and conflict. This is not a new phenomenon of our time, it is a genetic code passed down through generations. From royal succession rivalries recorded in history books to whispered conversations in dark corridors, drama is not a system flaw. It appears to be a feature of life at the very top. This variable hangs over King Charles and the entire family structure. The public, acting as observers, is placing the whole system under a microscope. Every fleeting glance, a furrowed brow, or a physical distance between family members is decoded as an SOS signal. It is this very scrutiny that fuels an endless spiral of speculation about hidden alliances and internal fractures. If the royal family is viewed as a machine, then the emergence of Camilla and later the separation of Harry and Meghan represent its most severe stress tests. Their departure and the statements issued from across the ocean inadvertently activated internal pressures, making the effort to maintain a glossy exterior more difficult than ever. Yet what is truly astonishing is the family's ability to freeze their emotions in public. But do not let that stillness deceive you. Analysts suggest that the real fracture does not lie in the external noise, but in the very foundation itself. And the epicenter of this latest seismic shift is believed to revolve around Princess Anne. This conflict goes beyond ordinary differences of opinion. It is existential to the future direction of the monarchy. According to prevailing theories, Princess Anne, often described as the royal family's iron arm, appears to have delivered an assessment, or rather a blunt warning, regarding Camilla's position. This is not personal jealousy, but a matter of principle. There is information suggesting that Anne pointed out a fundamental truth, one core factor that led her to believe Camilla's presence at the very top violates a sacred, unwritten rule, that she represents something fundamentally at odds with it. Could Princess Anne's warning be the final safeguard protecting the dynasty's legacy? Or is it the spark for a brutal transfer of power in the battle between traditional duty and a new reality? Who truly holds the soul of the monarchy? Leave your reasoning below. In systems management theory, when an external factor is perceived as a threat to core stability, the system's self-defense mechanisms are triggered. The chaotic developments we are witnessing at Buckingham Palace may in fact be the convulsions of a process of natural elimination within the power structure. Too many variables are operating beneath the surface, making outside observers feel as though they are lost in a labyrinth. Yet, when the data points are connected, a common pattern begins to emerge: the gradual isolation of the Queen Consort's position. Has the conclusion to reposition Camilla's role already been reached behind closed doors? Internal resistance to Camilla's status is not surprising when viewed against the trajectory of her rise. What is striking, however, is the scale of this undercurrent and the figures involved. We are talking about Princess Anne and Princess Kate. In the psychological profiles of the royal family, these two are consistently classified as the stabilizers. They embody duty, responsibility, and a near-absolute commitment to staying within the established rails of tradition. Princess Kate, in particular, has always been seen as a model of quiet perfection. So why are these exemplary guardians of the temple believed to be behind a campaign to restore order at the palace? When even the most moderate figures begin to act, it is a signal that the system has reached a red line. To understand their motives, we must return to a core concept: tradition. For the British monarchy, tradition is not merely habit, it is the only operating system that confers legitimacy. It is the invisible thread that connects the present to centuries of history. Adhering to protocol is how they merge into the endless current of kings and queens who came before them. It is how they tell the world, we are the guardians of identity. If this thread is severed or diluted by elements deemed incompatible, the monarchy loses its sense of the sacred and faces the risk of an identity collapse. And it was precisely at this sensitive crossroads that a symbolic event occurred, one that shook the ancient walls of the palace. It was a moment of silence, yet its echo was louder than any declaration. Recently, there have been moments that the public has scrutinized closely, especially during official events. For example, at the reception welcoming the German delegation in December 2025, Princess Kate performed a graceful and natural double curtsy once to King Charles and immediately afterward to Queen Camilla. The cameras clearly captured the scene. She smiled, exchanged warm greetings, and Camilla even responded with an air kiss. It was a gesture of courtesy, expressing respect fully in accordance with protocol. However, public opinion still tends to analyze smaller moments from earlier occasions, such as slightly more restrained greeting gestures at past events, for example the 2023 coronation, where some observers sensed a departure from strict traditional norms. Even so, body language experts note that these subtle variations may simply reflect natural adaptation to context rather than signaling any form of resistance. Having spent more than a decade mastering royal protocol, Kate's every gesture is typically carefully considered. So when we observe a combination of public deference and more relaxed moments, could this be a sign of a royal family gradually modernizing preserving tradition while becoming more flexible in its communication? Or is it simply a diversity of ways in which respect can be expressed? This subtle transgression, if we may call it that, seems to stem from a historical wound that never truly healed. It leads us to a haunting hypothesis, one that the public, and perhaps even members of the royal family themselves, have long wondered about the alternative scenario. If the variable named Diana had remained as queen, would the current power structure have fractured so deeply? Could the turmoil, Prince Harry's departure, and the fratricidal tensions between brothers be the direct consequences of an uneasy replacement? Many analysts argue that Princess Kate's perceived coolness is in fact a reflection of a collective psyche. It represents the quiet resistance of those who believe that Queen Camilla's path to the throne lacks one crucial element: the consent of the heart. To fully decode the princess's actions, we must place her in the correct position: a future queen, a queen consort in waiting. She is not merely a family member, but the blueprint for the next reign. In the theory of royal governance, the individual must always sacrifice personal ego to protect the constitutional order. Yet, we cannot rule out a broader, more macro-level hypothesis. Perhaps this is not an act of defiance at all, but rather a signal of a comprehensive software update unfolding under King Charles's reign. The king's ultimate goal is to bring the heavy chariot of the monarchy up to the speed of the 21st century. In the course of this restructuring, rituals rooted in submission, such as formal bowing, may be gradually pared back to make room for greater equality and a more modern sensibility. The public's reaction is the most intriguing variable in this equation. In an era that prizes authenticity, what is perceived as Kate's rebellion has inadvertently created a peculiar allure. It demonstrates that members of the royal family are not merely historical puppets pulled along by obsolete rules. They are independent thinkers willing to redefine what truly constitutes core values. Yet the paradox remains. For conservatives, bowing rituals are not mere pageantry. They are the skeletal framework that keeps the body of the monarchy upright. If formality and structure are stripped away, can the royal family still retain its sense of the sacred and its distinction from ordinary celebrities? So in your view, are Kate's actions a step forward for freedom? Or do they risk diluting traditional values? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you found this video insightful, remember to like and subscribe so you don't miss our upcoming in-depth analyses. We need to understand that on the royal chessboard, protocol is not merely about personal respect. It is the steel framework that keeps the historic castle from collapsing under the storms of time. Princess Anne has long been known as one of the most devoted and steadfastly traditional members of the royal family. She embodies austerity, responsibility, and an unwavering prioritization of duty, qualities that the British public holds in particularly high regard. According to a YouGov survey in early 2026, she continues to maintain a consistently high favorability rating of around 70%. In a period when the monarchy is facing profound change, from the king's health to the challenge of adapting to the 21st century, many have speculated about Princess Anne's role as a guardian of standards. She is often likened to a protector of Queen Elizabeth II's legacy, emphasizing continuity, ritual, and humility before the public. The relationship between Princess Anne and Queen Camilla has been closely observed. While there have been rumors of differing perspectives, with some sources suggesting that Anne favors stricter adherence to tradition, recent events have instead projected an image of unity. A clear example was Christmas 2025 at Sandringham. The two women appeared together wearing coordinated red outfits, leading the family to church, a gesture many newspapers described as a symbol of unity between the two most influential women in the royal family. Of course, the monarchy does not make everything public. There may well be internal discussions about how to balance immutable tradition with necessary adaptation, especially when Camilla represents a more modern, approachable style. But rather than open conflict, the system appears to be self-correcting. Anne continues her role as the quiet workhorse, carrying out hundreds of engagements each year, while Camilla remains at the king's side during major public events. This leads to a key question in the balance between preserving heritage and embracing renewal. What does Princess Anne truly represent? A force that holds the core firmly in place, or an integral part of a smooth, carefully managed transition? What's your take? She fears that accepting these looser standards would send the wrong message that the monarchy is lowering itself in order to compromise. Returning to the historic moment of the coronation, while the world saw crowns and robes, more discerning observers sensed a subtle discord in the atmosphere. The whispers there were not mere social pleasantries, but tremors of an underlying collision. For Princess Anne, the issue has moved far beyond questions of protocol or even generational differences, as in the case of Princess Kate. This is a deeply personal and historical issue. She has witnessed the entire chronicle of the complex emotional relationship between King Charles and Camilla, and now, from the perspective of a guardian of legacy, she fears that the immutable principles of the monarchy are being privatized by personal emotion. A psychological hypothesis emerges. Princess Anne believes she has inherited the spiritual will of Queen Elizabeth II, the responsibility to prevent the erosion of standards. She thus becomes a counterbalancing force to the soft influence that Queen Camilla is exerting over the king. Anne's steadfastness is revealed in a small yet enormously symbolic detail: resistance at the level of titles. Her insistence on using the term queen consort rather than simply queen is not linguistic stubbornness. It is a political boundary Anne draws to underscore the limits of power that the position derives from marriage, not from divine right or bloodline succession. And then the story turns to a new, more mysterious chapter: absence. Camilla's absence, attributed to a respiratory infection. But in courtly language, illness can sometimes be a euphemism for a temporary pause in power, a cooling-off period to calm heated minds. At the center of the storm, where does King Charles III stand? On one side is his lifelong, deeply rooted love for Camilla. On the other is his absolute loyalty to duty and his profound respect for his sister, Princess Anne. Royal psychological analysts suggest that Charles is facing the most acute dilemma of his life. He understands that if he defends Camilla too forcefully, he risks provoking resistance from his most devoted allies, figures like Anne and Kate. But if he lets go, he would be betraying the woman who stood by him through decades of being shunned by the world. Could Camilla's absence then be a painful compromise that Charles was forced to accept in order to keep the family from fracturing? A king who reigns over a kingdom yet cannot secure peace within his own palace. This may be the greatest tragedy of Charles III's reign. However, in the language of the court, health is sometimes the perfect screen behind which political temperature adjustments quietly take place. Systems analysts raise the question, is this merely a medical issue or a strategic pause? A necessary step back to cool internal tensions that had escalated to a breaking point, especially following firm signals from Princess Anne. If the hypothesis of a temporary suspension of power holds true, then this could be seen as a self-defense mechanism of the monarchy itself. The system is self-adjusting to ensure that the legacy of Queen Elizabeth II remains the sole guiding compass. Camilla's absence, whatever the reason, has inadvertently restored space for traditional values to shine. The final decision of Buckingham Palace is not about any single individual, but about the survival of a symbol. It is a choice between yielding to present emotions or safeguarding timeless majesty. In your view, is this withdrawal a sign of concession, or the overture to a new order established by loyal guardians of the temple? The British monarchy has always known how to survive storms, and this time is no exception. This content is purely for reference based on unverified hypotheses and public speculation. We invite discussion from an objective analytical perspective. Don't just sit back and observe, become part of the court of public opinion. If you believe Princess Anne and Kate are right to defend tradition, comment 1. If, on the other hand, you believe the monarchy needs renewal and greater empathy, comment 0. Hit like if you appreciate this style of analysis and subscribe to join us as we continue to decode the next mysteries of power. Thank you and see you in the next dossier. Within the silent corridors of power, silence itself can sometimes carry a weight more terrifying than any official statement. A hypothesis is currently drawing intense attention among elite observers that the succession mechanism at Kensington does not operate merely on a simple when the time comes basis, but is instead governed by an emergency brake system. As a royal figure approaches the milestone age of 40, triggering the activation of a massive trust fund from the past, we might assume this to be an automatic process. But no. For a long time, the public has been swept up in media sparring, yet according to our analysis, the true tip of the iceberg lies in the flow of finances. The hypothesis raised here is this. Does an older brother acting as the future guardian of the system have the right to intervene in the flow of a younger brother's assets on the basis of moral standards? There are indications that a strategy referred to as a localized asset freeze is being considered. Rather than impulsive outbursts of anger, this appears to be a cold, calculated move grounded in a doctrine of preserving honor. The core argument placed on the scales is this: when a member breaks away from the system's shared orbit, do they retain the same privilege of drawing upon that system's resources? To truly understand this legal machine, we must look away from the headlines and step into the imagined space of the muniment room, the repository of memory and highly classified documents. According to analytical data on aristocratic customs, the key to this matter does not lie in existing law, but in a more abstract concept, the letter of wishes. A handwritten document from 1993 is now regarded as the most critical variable. For 3 decades, it was merely a sheet of paper resting silently in the archives. Today, however, amid shifts in family structure, this document has suddenly become a legal shield. Our hypothesis is this: the document does not merely govern money, it establishes a moral filter. Can a handwritten piece of paper from 30 years ago truly have the power to halt the flow of millions of dollars? That is the million-dollar question we need to answer. If you appreciate our approach of hypothesis and analysis rather than baseless rumors, leave a comment saying agreed and share this video with friends who share a passion for uncovering the truth. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel because the most unexpected variables have yet to be revealed. Its contents, though never officially made public, are believed to enshrine an unbreakable principle of the late mother: wealth must serve the well-being of her children, yet at the same time function as a resource to protect and uphold the dignity of the family. So what happens when these two objectives, individual interest and family honor, move in opposite directions? In your view, within a system that places such high value on tradition, can a handwritten spiritual testament truly possess enough power to override rigid financial rules? Or is this merely the opening move in a broader redefinition of inheritance itself? For many years, the working assumption of the one who departed rested on what was considered an absolutely safe variable, that the flow of finances from the maternal bloodline was untouchable, entirely separate from the royal family. He believed that biological status, being Diana's son, would always outrank political status. However, a sharp counterargument is now being actively debated. On the side of the heir to the throne, William, there appears to be a deliberate effort to redefine the concept of entitlement. The reasoning here is not emotional, but rooted in asset management logic, the purpose of the capital itself. If the 1993 letter is treated as the constitution of the trust, then it contains a brutal paradox the system is now forced to confront. The original intent of the bequest was to provide resources for independence and security. Yet in today's reality, that very flow of capital is suspected of being used to finance a media machine that turns back and attacks the very foundation that created it. This is what analysts describe as the self-destruction paradox, using a mother's legacy to pay lawyers and PR teams in a campaign that erodes the honor of her own family. In the eyes of the system's managers, this is no longer about purchasing a house, but about financing a confrontational campaign. A common counter-question is often raised: is this simply greed? Publicly available financial data suggest the answer is no. As Prince of Wales, William's income and assets far exceed any personal needs. Therefore, this move to freeze assets is not economic in nature, but instead reflects a strategy of protecting the legacy brand. The system's greatest fear is not the loss of money, but the commodification of pain. The transfer of physical assets, potentially including priceless personal mementos, to a location beyond direct oversight in California, carries the risk of their becoming mere props for entertainment products on digital platforms. William, in his role as guardian, is sending a powerful signal: sacred legacy cannot be collateral for Hollywood. To decode the next move, we must shift our geographic coordinates, leaving London for Althorp, the ancestral seat of the Spencer family. There, a third figure stands at the center of the storm, the 9th Earl Spencer. Consider the extraordinarily complex position of this figure. In 1997, he was the one who made a historic vow before the world to protect both nephews from being consumed by the royal institution. But nearly 30 years later, that promise has turned into a diplomatic curse. He is no longer merely an uncle. He has become the last remaining buffer zone. Well-informed sources suggest that the mode of communication from the royal side has shifted, no longer framed as family appeals, but as institutional pressure. The implicit message sent to Althorp carries more political weight than familial warmth. It is a demand for the synchronization of loyalty. The logic William's side presents to his uncle is cold, yet difficult to refute. How can he protect his sister's legacy if he continues to fund activities that actively harm that very legacy? The argument from the heir to the throne. William is rooted more in military logic than in family sentiment. If an estimated $10 million in assets were to be released, at this moment it would not simply be a birthday gift. In the system's eyes, this would amount to funding the counterforce. The media apparatus the younger brother is building is no longer viewed as a peripheral nuisance, but has been identified as a competing entity, actively eroding the credibility of the very institution William is destined to lead. Consequently, any flow of money from Althorp to California at this moment would be regarded as fuel for the next wave of attack. Earl Spencer now finds himself trapped at a brutal strategic crossroads. A subtle yet weighty implicit message has been delivered. Will he choose to stand with the stability of the crown, or lend strength to an unstable variable? The Earl now faces a profound moral paradox. On one side lies the oath of blood, a commitment to protect the most vulnerable of his nephews. If he locks the vault, he risks becoming the villain in the next chapter of history, accused of betraying the wishes of his late sister. But on the other side stands political reality. William holds the power of the future. Defying the direction of the crown could lead to social isolation for the entire Spencer line. So what is the technical solution here? This is where we must understand a specialized financial mechanism of the aristocracy, the discretionary hold. The audience needs to understand that these trusts do not operate like an ATM. The trustees hold an emergency brake. Technically and legally, they have the authority to suspend distributions if they determine that the beneficiary is in a state of instability. In the past, this has applied to cases of bankruptcy or loss of behavioral control. But today, legal teams are expanding that definition. They argue that the beneficiary is operating under the influence of external hostile actors. A case file is being assembled to legitimize a carefully phrased answer, "not at this time." This is not confiscation, but a protective, temporary lock. Pressure at Althorpe is reaching a breaking point. Two ends of the phone line, two opposing poles of power and rebellion, are both awaiting a decision. One side demands a freeze, the other demands liquidity. And the man in the middle understands one thing clearly: whichever choice he makes will constitute a breach of trust. However, William's move does not stop at internal pressure alone. Analysts suggest that the true force driving this hardline stance is a darker fear, one that extends far beyond Britain's borders. It is the scenario of a jurisdictional clash with courts in California, where royal secrets could be exposed in their most raw and unfiltered form. While the English countryside holds its breath, the real fuse is quietly smoldering 5,000 miles away. To outside observers, freezing the flow of money may look like a punitive move driven by personal motives. However, sources with deep insight into royal strategy point to a critical psychological shift. The motivation has moved from emotional anger to legal fear. On the desks of key decision-makers, a new file labeled California Jurisdiction Risk is being closely scrutinized. The real concern is not the heir's ability to spend money, but the asset permeation mechanisms inherent in the place where he now resides. We must remember one key technical factor. California is a jurisdiction that applies an exceptionally strict community property regime. This is precisely the technical trap that advisors are warning about. Top-tier lawyers have advanced a chilling hypothesis in asset management: the concept of commingling. Their argument is razor-sharp. Once inherited assets, whether cash or priceless heirlooms, cross the Atlantic and are deposited into shared household accounts or used to renovate jointly owned property, they lose their exempt status. At that point, legally speaking, it would no longer be the private property of the Spencer line. It would be transformed into marital property. And it is precisely this transformation that fuels the sleepless nights of legacy guardians in Britain. A professional risk manager never operates on faith in the permanence of love, but must plan for the worst-case scenario, the dissolution of a partnership. No matter how firmly the principles assert stability, the system itself is not permitted the luxury of optimism. If an asset division were to take place under the ruling of a Los Angeles court, the 50-50 rule could be triggered. Imagine a scenario in which historically significant emeralds or funds reserved exclusively for royal bloodlines are compelled to be transferred to an external entity as part of a divorce settlement. For the future head of the monarchy, this is not about losing money. It is an irreversible leakage of legacy. It is an apocalyptic vision in which family history becomes collateral on a negotiating table in America. This is a fear that is instinctive, reaching far beyond the scale of palaces. Whether it is a national treasure or simply an old family photo album, the desire to protect what our ancestors left behind and to ensure it is passed on to the right hands is entirely legitimate. I hope you and your families are safe and able to preserve your own core values. Our community is growing every day. Let me know in the comments which city or country you're following this story from. Is the concept of inheritance where you live viewed differently? Returning to the strategic chessboard. To neutralize this California trap, a complex legal maneuver is being pushed forward known as a protective trust variation. This is Plan B. If persuasion through emotion fails, the system will alter the distribution